Hi, how are you guys doing? I wanted to come on here for just a short while to talk a little bit about some things that have been going on with me and share my insights, as well as a couple of conversations that I've had, and then make a request. So, to begin with, for those of you who don't know me, I am having foot surgery next Friday, the 21st. And it's to take out a metal plate that was put in my big toe knuckle August of last year. I had told the physician that I am allergic. I've had severe metal reactions or severe reactions to metals in the past. And he told me I didn't have anything to worry about. Fast forward 8 months, and there's clearly inflammation, a lot of granulation because the body's rejecting it. And there's a lot of, there's issues, so the plate has to come out. Fortunately, the bone has been fused enough to where we can get away with that. So that's the cool thing. Now, what's come up with around this is I had to go in for a physical. Hopefully you didn't hear that. Have a physical, just routine checkup. Kind of get a baseline, make sure everything was going okay, and part of that included one of those stool tests, right, for colon screening. Well, that came back yesterday afternoon, positive for blood in the stool, which I was really surprised about. It doesn't necessarily mean anything horrible is going on, but now I have to go in for a colonoscopy, and that just is very alarming to me because, to be quite frank, I've had gastrointestinal issues since childhood. I tell people I was born anxious, but I've lived with a lot of tension and anxiety since a very young age, to the degree that if we'd go on vacation, my dad usually took us on a 2-week vacation. I would never use the bathroom for 2 weeks, and then I'd come home, and my mother, it was expected that at the end of the vacation I was having to have an enema, which was extraordinarily traumatic. I was devastated. I've also experienced severe, what I would refer to as IBS, spastic colon, again, from a very young age. I can recall it happening long before I was 5, being folded over with a bloated belly. And I did grow up in a dysfunctional household, a lot of fighting. My sister was also, there was a lot of tension. My sister was sick. My youngest sister was sick for many years. So there was a lot going on. And I had a tendency, and still do, because I'll give you an example here in a minute, to take it on. I take it on in the sense that I wish people didn't feel what they feel, that they didn't feel the pain, basically. And I ultimately take it on. This has been my experience my entire life. And welcome to the real world. Anyway, I hope that was a fire truck, so hopefully everyone's safe. Anyway, so that said, this last year I was staying with, here comes another one, excuse me. That was an ambulance, so it must be a car wreck. I hope everybody's okay. Safety for all. Anyway, I stayed with my father-in-law for this last year. I was a caretaker for him. He was having some significant health issues. He was of a mindset that change was not something he could accommodate. He felt like the world should stay the same. And it's interesting, I've been reading a book called Immunity to Change, which is a fascinating study on the human resistance to change. And they've discovered that obviously, like for instance, if a doctor, if somebody, 5 out of 7 times, if somebody's told that they have a severe health issue and that they need to change what they're doing, 5 out of the 7 people will not do it. It's a very small percentage of people that will actually make the change. That said, now there's the consideration that if you go into an organization or a group of people, it becomes a cultural, foundation of resistance to change. And so how to begin to break that up. Now, the point to all of this is, number one, truthfully, the book is fascinating. At the same time, I could see this in my father-in-law, and I could even recognize it in my dad, that there's that this rigidity of thinking really messed with their ability to be fluid in the world and to have any influence. And I'm going to insert that right now because the word influence means to flow into. So they were resisting the flow because change is the only constant, right? This is the reason why I actually like to talk about the influence essential oils have on the human body. They flow into the cells, and when we use them with intention, we can manifest miraculous results. So now, back to the deal with my father-in-law, because of the rigidity, because of the fear, I mean, he was riddled with it. There were so many things going on around him, and it was angering him to the point where it was a very volatile environment. Again, I was his caretaker. I cooked for him, I cleaned for him, I took him, to his appointments. We had a really close relationship. And I am speaking in the past because he did pass away this past weekend on my birthday, which I find to be a terrific blessing because he shared a portal with me. And I think that's really freaking awesome. At the same time, what claimed his life was, suspicion is that he did have the comorbidities that everybody was talking about. My question about the vaccines, and this is the only thing we're going to say about vaccines, is if the virus is hard on people with certain comorbidities, then how can the vaccine be beneficial? He and I talked about this, but his estranged wife had him convinced that he should go get his shot. So he went and took the shot, and then he took his second one, and following the second one, that's when his health deteriorated and he passed away. He is at peace, and I think he deserves that, given what I was witness to. In the meantime, I stomached all that pain, and I mean that literally. So this is not easy for me to talk about because, as you know, I'm a huge advocate and I use oils like they're water, all right? And so I would stomach the pain. I literally experienced IBS flare-ups every single night for a year, for a stinking year. I did use oils on my abdomen to help relieve the pain. I know that I've subsequently talked about other oils that are beneficial for the gut flora. I never stopped to think that between the radiation treatment with the breast cancer and the oral meds that I agreed to take and the stress of this environment and the anesthesia from the foot surgery, that I never stopped to think about the disruption to my gut flora. I never stopped to think that could be the case. And so when I was informed that it was positive for blood in the stool, which is indicative of polyps, when I dug around and did my research, it came to discover that the gut flora, the microbiome, is directly linked to this sort of issue in the colon and many well, for that, let's just face it, it's going to be linked to all health issues at this point. And then, of course, although I make my own hand sanitizer out of oils and it's just completely plant-based, there's how many people are actually using hand sanitizers with 60% or higher of ethanol. Ethanol disrupts the biome, the microbiome on the skin. It's absorbed into the body. It messes with the gut. So, and if you drink wine or if you drink any kind of alcohol, you're also throwing off. If you eat meat that's been raised with antibiotics, that throws it off. I mean, there's so many possibilities of disrupting the microbiome. And so I'm here to say that, well, I'm going to share, I'm actually here, my colonoscopy is a month away, and so I'm actually beginning to use oils that will not only help with the tissue development or the reduction of tissue development in the sense of polyp development, right? But helping to furthering the reset of my hormonal system and furthering the reset of my microbiome. Now, a couple of other things that came up with all of this, really interesting conversations, was around, I did a consult with somebody, and her question for me was, why, when my day is fine, I have nothing particularly going on, nothing eventful or stressful, but yet I still feel anxious or tense? And it reminds me of a conversation I had with somebody also not long after that, where we were talking about trauma. Okay, you've heard me say here before, anxiety is a trauma response. All right, but we can do all the work in the world with healing, mentally grasping what's happened and mentally doing everything we can to release the trauma, right? To disengage from those events. This is the reason why I like oils, to help draw people out of a flashback. At the same time, there's a cellular response. It's registered in the cells, okay? This is significant because this is where the epigenome comes in, and this is where it comes in, like I mentioned a little while ago, oils having an influence on the cellular activity. Because when we use them with intention, we can absolutely flow into the cell and align the cells with wellness. Okay, wellness is a state of mind. It's a state, and a mind is more than the brain, okay? So wellness is a state of mind. So we can use oils intentionally to realign the cells with wellness, whereby now our physical state of health is improved. I've been doing a little bit of reading into human design. I find it very, very fascinating. And oils absolutely factor into this. They absolutely factor into it. And so when it comes to me, I still was operating in that trauma response because my father-in-law was only a day younger than my own father. And my own father disowned me several times throughout my young adulthood, to the degree where I was actually finally written out of his life when he passed away. So to be with my father-in-law was very cathartic, because I got to immerse myself into an era that I was not quite familiar with, but it still kept drumming up all these things for me. So there was still a lot of healing that was going on. Now my role is to emotionally detox. And that's what I wanted to come and ask you. If you would be interested in doing a workshop for emotional detox. And we could design it as a conversation on Zoom, whereby we talk about what's going on for you specifically and actually help choose oils that would support the emotional detox. Comment down below. Say me. That's all you have to say, is say me. And I will pick a date and we'll go from there. But I really believe that even though we can wrap our heads around getting past any of our trauma, reminding ourselves, reinforming ourselves of what's well, or I should say of what wellness really is where oils come in. And so the conversation I had earlier today with regards to just that, about it being in the cells, it was great because it's somebody I've known for years. She also is having gastrointestinal issues, and I was able to make some recommendations for oils for her. She's got a lot of other fabulous things that she's doing for healing, but there's still something missing because she's still dealing with pain after a year. So I gave her some suggestions, and she's moving forward with it. With the other person who asked me, why am I still feeling this way? It's because it's in the cells. It's an automated response. The cells are already programmed to react and they're firing because there might be something. It could be an aroma, it could be a site, it could be a person. I've worked in treatment facilities where, believe it or not, one of my clients was an executive of big wireless phone company, and he had really suffered dearly with trauma and would get into these severe flashbacks. Well, another person, older person, came in for treatment that looked very similar to his father. And every time he looked at him, it would set him off. So even though he was getting the therapy and the treatment, there was still that visual recognition. Okay? And so therefore, using oils to help slow that process down is really, really important. And because, like I said, they influence cellular activity because influence means to flow into. And when we flow into the cells with intention, we can ultimately reset and align the cells with wellness as opposed to automatic reactions, which is epigenetic. Okay, so let me know if you'd be interested in an emotional detox workshop. I would love to host something like that because I'm learning this for myself. And if that's something that you'd like to hear about, by all means, let me know. If not, that's fine too. I just wanted to put it out there because it's in my mind. Anyway, let me know what you think of this. I'm also going to share the recent newsletter that I just sent out this morning. I'm just going to link you to the newsletter so you don't have a bunch of videos in here. And I look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, be well. You guys take care. And I will see you soon.